And if you give more information, Google customizes to you. I'm only trying to explain to you why
the data what you receive. I am not talking about that.
The data which you receive is the amount of data which you give. No. So anyway, so we can take this offline. But the point you need to understand is, as long as you give a software a lot of data about you, which Google has today, Google understands how you work, what are your patterns, and then is able to adapt to who you are, how you are. Other softwares which only takes so much of information, only work saying, I have an entire gamut of users like this, all of them follow a certain pattern, so I will behave a certain way for that user. But if the users give more information, I can personalize more for them. You get what I'm saying? I'm just trying to tell you. For example, we built this huge thing called Sunsilk Gang of Girls, which was a 7 lakh thing for women. What was happening is, you could see women interact in communities, say what they liked, what they didn't like, that they wanted shampoos more for dandruff control rather than anything else. So then Sunsilk could take that data and customize the product, and the website itself you could see women didn't want to use GOG TV and start uploading web videos. They didn't. In India, women don't like to put videos. They'd rather sit and chat and gossip about other things with other women, and not even about guys. That's where the whole Priyanka Chopra, that's where the whole Javed Habib thing came in terms of bringing a stylist in. But that's because women were giving off that much of information, and that is the kind of tracking which was happening. But this tracking has to happen with people analyzing patterns, saying that this is how we understand this user to be, and then adapt the whole thing across. That's why a website can typically adapt month on month.
Recently,
Yeah.
you take the Amazon.com, and does the same thing. It analyzes your data patterns.
Right.
And it does a fantastic job. What you're saying can be achieved through the machine as well.
No, I'm not denying that. I'm only trying to say there are different ways of doing this. Here what happens is that there are different ways of doing it depending on what the usage is. In terms of where Amazon is, buy books, read books, come back. Buy an object. No, I'm only trying to say is that it's more of a commerce thing where you know where people come to watch reviews, and then they have a certain set pattern in terms of what they're looking for. If it's a community, it changes in terms of how much of interactivity you're having and what touch points you're having with the portal, which means that that kind of information needs to be analyzed differently.
Correct. But it's a similar thing in that.
No, I'm only trying to say is that, anyway, so this is where we are, so we'll go through this. So here what we're trying to do is look at, for example, user interfaces which work with different audiences, and this is where we're going through. So for example, I've seen this and I know that, for example, your mom would maybe use Series 40, but she would never be comfortable with the Symbian phone, or your dad, for example. So this is the kind of thought that say, one interface is where you throw on top what is it that they would actually use. Say maybe prayer or Facebook, which your mom doesn't typically use, but then a preview of cards. So the idea here is that you have a certain set pattern in terms of where a Nokia device is used by a certain target audience. The 7210 Supernova is typically used by women, so their requirements are much lesser. So you then customize in terms of what you think they like and put it in. This is something, obviously, this is the whole BlackBerry interface. What is it that people finally say, why do I like the BlackBerry so much? Oh, I'm in touch with my work, I set my reminders, those kind of things. Now these two are very different kind of audiences which are there. Another one is typically a programmer who says, I can do everything on the touch of a keyboard, even on my phone. If I can just start searching out, send out text prompts, I'm okay with that. Why do I like my Linux thing so much? Because yeah. Do we need to move the camera?
We are not able to see you.
Okay. So what we're talking about here is different ways of looking at standard, Vodafone standard, certain standards which comply in terms of where they say that the entire user base will use it this way. So for example, the HSBC website, they have come up with so much of information here which is on the website based on a certain premise saying users have a lot of different needs when they come to a bank, and I need to identify that on the first screen. It's not a one-use kind of thing. On the other hand, when you design microsites, when you design advertising things, you know that you're taking the user only for a certain experience, a certain right. This, for example, is a banking game which is online where It's a whole video game which is going through. And what is there? What is the user interface here? Left and right. You keep tapping. If you don't tap it fast enough, the user bangs into a car. And that's it. That was the simple user interface here, which obviously conflicts with this kind of purpose. It is what is the purpose, what is the utility of the campaign, of the user interface, what is it that it wants to do for you. So anyway, so moving to the last one, voice-based. Who put this?
Continue straight, turn left. In total 9 kilometers, turn right.
So that's it. So the simple voice-based interface. So what is it that we're saying which is a usable interface? None. What we're saying is that the different utilities from a GPS device to a banking application, the different utilities, hence different user interfaces which work in. We don't need to think about standards, guidelines. We don't need to think about what has been done before. But we need to think about who are we doing this for? That's basically where this is coming from. So yeah, that's it. I think so. We can go with more questions if you want. How much more time is it?
There are various factors when you come to classify. For example, there is voice, there is so many other factors. What are your main set of classifications? How do you classify various user interfaces?
I only classify users, that's what I'm saying. I don't classify user interfaces. The point is, for example, no, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. No, it's not the same thing. No, it's not. No. The difference here is that when we do anything around user interfaces, what typically happens is you identify. If it's a kit, it's graphic, it's game, click on it, go through. If it is something technology oriented, it's a lot of text, a lot of jargon which typically come in, which then drag them into a certain point saying, these are technologies I want to read, I'm a reader, I want a lot of text.
Okay. I'm asking you for points of classification for users. Right. What are your...
So anyway, so let me put it another way. If you ever went into an advertising agency or something, your points of classification would be, what are the age groups, what are the income groups, and what is the typical profile which a user has. For example, if you did something for Virgin Mobile, let's say he's a guy Rocky, who goes to college typically, who typically uses his phone for music, texts his friends, and then goes around. So then it's all built around that. So hence, the way in which a Virgin interface would typically be is a lot of loud messaging, loud colors which typically come in, and something which directly says, this is what I'm going to do for you, click here and get into it. Whereas if you went for something which was either more complex or more dumbed down, which is kids. Kids is just graphic. They see a graphic like Candyman, for example. They like different characters of the Candyman flavors. So then you said, you want to interact with this character, this is where you go. You want to interact with this character, this is where you go. So yeah, that's it. Yeah.
About technology, what is happening in the mobile space. So it's important, more than technology, what is important is that we address the users, right? So of course, Werner has done a fantastic job. He had, an idea about what user interface is going to be about in the coming era. And you had questions which he addressed. We had a great discussion. So thank you, Werner, for being here and, making it so interactive. I have Sandeep here from Teleka. Would request him to felicitate our speaker. We will hold on for 2 minutes. You know what the next session is going to be about? It's about mobile web applications and services. Yeah? Web browser is known for its rich representation. Can mobile browsers define or deliver the same? Mobile browsers have allowed me to access any data from anywhere. So the question is, what kind of data, application or services are users really looking out from a web on a mobile phone? How can one leverage cloud computing, which is the buzz of today? How do we make any apps more social by messing up with data on mobile handsets? With information lying on the cloud, it's worth exploring with Lalit, who is the CEO of Mobisys, on web-based applications on mobile phones. Lalit is a dynamic international executive with a decade of experience in mobile handsets, business in various roles. His keen technical knowledge combined with savvy business mind helps drive